Hey guys, welcome to another episode of MTG Steam Brewery. We know it's taken us a while to get the video out for this Mardu Midrange deck tech. For this last versus video, we've been really busy. We got some college stuff going on, some purely stuff going on, work stuff going on, just a lot of stuff to schedule with. It's just kind of hard to find a decent amount of free time outside of the streaming I've started to be able to actually do a deck tech with everything that we actually do have going on. So we're finally getting to it. We do have some things lined up. We have some deck techs lined up. We're going to do another versus video with this deck versus Blue White Red Delver. As was requested, a Blue White Red Delver deck be on the YouTube channel, and we will get to it, I promise. Just taking us a little longer than we would like, and we're sorry about the inconvenience. But we're going to start off this week, hopefully full of content, maybe, with the Mardu Midrange deck tech that took so long from episode 30. Pretty much a week, I think. So here we go. We start off with one Chandra Pirate Master. Since this is in Russian, I will read it. 2 red for a 4 starting loyalty Chandra. +1, deal 1 damage to target player, and up to 1 creature that player controls. That creature cannot block this turn. It's mainly going to be used for that mode, all the way to the ultimate. Happens a lot in Modern when players can't answer Planeswalkers. But sometimes you will need to use the 0 to draw cards. But making creatures falter, it's a really oldest way to just say it can't block. Just kind of a shorter way. Very popular, faltering a guy every turn and dealing a damage. Can be very relevant in this deck. We have plenty of creatures that can attack. Lingering Souls tokens, Angels, Olivia, Redcap, just plenty of things to be down with. The 0 is exile the top card of your library. Until end of turn you may cast that card. Now you do have to pay its mana cost. It's not free like a lot of the cards that do that are. But it is free card every turn. You just need to be careful about how you sequence your turn. Don't play any spells if you plan to 0 before you 0, unless you just have a ton of excess mana and can afford to do it. Or unless you won't play your land until after you 0 your Chandra, because you might exile land, just things like that. Then our -7 is very potent in this deck, full of, I think we have a full 12 burn spells that aren't Chandra. -7, exile the top 10 cards of your library. That is 1/6 of a starting library, and that's before you even draw your opening hand, so it's gonna dig pretty deep. Choose an instant or sorcery from among those cards. Cast that card 3 times, up to 3 times without paying its mana cost. In this deck, most of the time that will be game over. You can flip a Lightning Helix, a Lightning Bolt, or Crackling Doom as your burn spells. And most of the time, casting any one of those 3 times will end the game at the point you can ultimate a Chandra. But her +1 and 0 are also plenty useful in this deck. Faltering and dealing damage is a huge thing, especially since we are just pretty much a burn deck against most decks. So she has a lot of utility in this deck. There's also one Ajani Vengeant. Once again, very good at ultimating in Modern, going up to 4, so he survives the bolt. Both of them will. Big deal. His +1 is target permanent doesn't untap during its controller's next untap step. So you can +1 Sea Draw, no, his Birthing Pods, lands. He just has a ton of utility. His -2 is you Lightning Helix, 3 damage target creature or player, and you gain 3 life. And his -7 is destroy all lands target player controlled. The ultimate won't always win a game. It normally will, though. It's very good at that. I've used Ajani to... I've ultimated both these Planeswalkers several times in Modern, just because in Modern people aren't equipped to deal with Planeswalkers if they go to 4 loyalty and don't die to a single bolt. It normally involves them 2-4ing themselves, so they've both been very well for me. From a suggestion on a guy on Twitch on my streaming on Moto, Wolfier has suggested I play Butcher of the Horde in the deck, and after a couple of minutes of me saying it's not working, but then giving a ton of reasons why it's good, I convinced myself with his reasoning that he was right and that I should play Butcher of the Horde. And it has been amazing so far. The few times I've drawn it 4 times, including online in Magic and in paper. I think I've drawn it a total of 7 times. And all but 2 of those times, it has been good enough to either win the game or get very close to winning the game. So I've been very happy with the Butcher of the Horde so far. Being able to gain lifelink, haste, or vigilance by sacrificing another creature, and being a 5/4 flyer for 4, space flying is amazing. And with so many creatures that just aren't amazing on their own, Kitchen Finks, Sin Collector, Mercenary Cap, both amazing. They're all really good creatures on their own, but they do have a lot of utility. Mainly when they enter, and not much else afterwards. They can beat down if we kill all their creatures, which we try to do, I promise. But Sin Collector is one of the less aggressive creatures in the deck, and a lot of matchups I've been running to online. It hasn't been amazing, but it is still hand disrupt spell on a stick, so it's nice to have a way to use that Sin Collector after we get rid of its enter the battlefield trigger. as well as sacrificing a Kitchen Finks or Redcap to it, so Persist back can be a very big deal. And Lingering Souls makes 2 creatures stack to it if you just need to give it haste and lifelink in a turn. So it's just very nice utility. There's 3 Restoration Angel in the deck, very good with our Persist creatures and Sin Collector, as well as just being an efficient threat. A 4 mana 3/4 flying flash is very good. Just blinking our Persist creatures if they persist is very good. Blinking a Sin Collector can be a very big deal. Blinking a Spirit token of our opponents, like casting a Detention Sphere or something, can be a big deal. Just a nice amount of utility for this card, outside of the fact that it's just a very efficient beater. 1 Olivia Valderin. This card is a personal favorite of mine. I played this back in the old standard. 3/3 flyer for 4. Tap 1 in a red. Olivia Valderin deals 1 damage to target creature. It becomes a vampire in addition to its other types. Olivia Valderin gets +1/+1 counter. And it also has another ability on there, as if that wasn't enough. 3 black, gain control of target vampire until you lose control of Olivia. So pretty much for every 7 mana you have, you ping one of their creatures, and then you take it. You don't really need to be able to take creatures with this for it to take over a game. Being flying, this can take over a game very quickly just by untapping and you pinging 2 things, making it a 5/5 and attacking. But at those games where you ping a Siege Rhino, steal a Siege Rhino, you can really swing a game really quickly. Against opposing Lingering Souls, she just feasts on all of the tokens. She just has a lot of very good power in the matchups you want her. So I decided to main deck mine instead of sideboarding mine for those matchups where I just really want to draw it. There's also 2 Murderous Redcaps in the deck. Whenever a Murderous Redcap enters the battlefield, it is able to equal to its power to target creature or player. It has Persist. If your opponent plays Bad Moon, which is black creatures get +1/+1, do keep that in mind for your Murderous Redcap. But outside of that, it's just going to be 3 damage. 2 when it enters, 1 when it dies. It's going to be a removal spell on a stick, basically, that can also go to the dome, as our Lightning Helix, Lightning Bolt, Crackling Doom do. They act as removal spells as well as burn spells, so in control matchups they're not completely dead, and then in every other matchup they still have the ability to be a removal spell. Murderous Redcap is no different. This card can actually deal 3 damage to any creature. It can enter, shoot the player, but then it can block, persist back, and deal another damage. So a lot of nice interactions there. You can double block something like a Siege Rhino with a Murderous Redcap Kitchen Finks, persist it back in after the Siege Rhino dies and kill something else, or shoot the player for 1, so just a lot of good things there. 2 Kitchen Finks, 1/2 hybrid green-white for a 3/2. When it enters the battlefield, gain 2 life, persist. Persist, if you don't know, is whenever this creature dies, if it did not have a -1/-1 counter on return to the battlefield. But anyway, gaining the life is going to be very relevant. In the burn matchups, we do pay a lot of life. That's why we have 4 Lightning Helix and 2 Kitchen Finks in the deck. Linking this with the Restoration, you can be very good in a lot of matchups, just give you a bunch of time. Especially if it's persistent, so you gain 6 life off your Kitchen Finks. Always good. There's also 2 Sin Collector in the deck. These are kind of like a duress. They are 1 white-black for a 2/1 when it enters the battlefield. Target player or target opponent reveals his or her hand. You choose a instant or sorcery card from among them and make them discard that card, or exile that card. Whoever one gets beating a Snapcaster Mage. But it's mainly a 2/1 on a stick that gets to disrupt our opponent's hand. And blinking it with Restoration can be very good, which is the main reason to be main decking them instead of sideboarding them for some of our other sideboard cards. But that is where I have them for now. I don't know how much longer they'll be there. The meta online and in paper seems to be shifting to more of creature-based decks in my meta. So it's just getting slowly worse. So it's probably going to end up being moved to the sideboard soon. But for now, I'm going to stick them in my main deck. We have 1 Grim Lavamancer. Once again, a burn spell / removal spell. Against aggressive decks, this kills a bunch of things early. You tap 1 red and exile 2 cards from your graveyard and shock something. He's also a 1 red 1/1, so you can get in some early damage if you can't shock with him yet. But against Delver and Affinity decks like that, you can kill their creatures with removal, and then kill more creatures, or start burning them as well, to just make him a very nice utility card if they can't answer him. There's all of our actual creatures, our last fake creatures, as I will call them, our Lingering Souls tokens. You get 2 1/1 white spirits for 2 and a white, flashback for 1 and a black. Flashbacks, you can cast it from your graveyard by paying this cost and exiling it from your graveyard. So it's basically 5 mana for 4 1/1 flyers, 3 the first time, 2 the second time. It's just a way to get some card advantage. And in a deck without any actual card advantage, having Chandra, Ajani Vengeant, Lingering Souls, like the Persist creatures, we just have all these cards that make slow advantage over the time of the game, which is our way of making card advantage since we don't have any actual draw. And then we just have our burn package of 4 Lightning Bolt, 4 Lightning Helix, and 4 Crackling Doom. Crackling Doom deals 2 damage to each opponent, and they sacrifice a creature they control with the greatest power. This is nice, it's just a burn spell that also kills a creature at the same time. So it does exactly what our deck wants it to do. It wants us to kill things, and it wants us to burn players. It'll do them both. It kills Siege Rhinos, it kills Thruns, can't kill a Sigarda awkwardly enough if your opponent Sigardas you, but beating a Thrun is a big deal. Beating Bogles, this is a really good coincidental main deck card that beats Bogles, which I found out is very good. Having 4 of this card in that matchup game 1 actually gives you a fighting chance. With this deck of Bogles is the thing in your meta. Lightning Helix, Lightning Bolt, just 3 damage. Lightning Helix gains life, Lightning Bolt doesn't. They're basically the same card for just different mana. Lightning Helix gaining 3 life, though, can matter a lot when we fetch Shock, taking damage from our opponents, attacking us a bunch of times, just things like that. But basically a way to have removal spells for the aggro matchups and mid-range matchups, while also having burn spells for the control matchup, so our removal isn't just completely dead like Abzan when it draws all of its removal spells against control deck. We also have 4 Path, the only removal spell that is just a straight-up removal spell. Exile target creature, its controller searches its library, may search the library for a basic land card and put it on the battlefield tapped. We just need a way to kill big creatures outside of Crackling Doom, so we'll have 8 total ways for Path for Crackling Doom. Siege Rhino and Tarmogoyf are very big creatures, and they are certainly cards that we need to have answers to. And the last spell in our main deck is Batterskull. I considered playing Blood Baron. I'm playing Blood Baron online because Batterskull is $50 online, and paper it's $16. Notable difference, which is why we have a Batterskull in paper. It is a living weapon. When it enters, you get a 0/0 black germ token equipped with this artifact equipment. Equipped creature, not enchanted, equipped, has +4/+4 vigilance and lifelink. Tap 3 to return Batterskull to your hand. Tap 5 to equip Batterskull to another creature. This card is very good. It's done a lot of work in Modern. It's normally a sideboard card, but in my main deck, like just the way I've configured the deck, we need game-ending threats that are really hard to answer. This is a really hard to answer game-ending threat, especially in Game 1. A lot of decks can't handle an artifact. Even if they kill a germ token, you can bounce and replay your Batterskull. You can move it around to other creatures. It makes your 1/1 Lingering Souls token into a 5/5 Flying Vigilance Lifelink Lingering Souls token, which can be very deadly, very quickly. And it also has lifelink, so in the burn matchup, if you get like Helix into Finks into Restoration Angel, your Finks Batterskull will normally be able to help you push through the damage that you're being dealt by burn, and this can just really stabilize against aggro, mid-range, and control decks. Control decks having a tough time dealing with 4/4s as is, having a tough time really dealing with a repeatable 4/4 is very nice. Oh, we have 2 Ghost Quarter. They can help cast our spells. They're mainly in here as a way to either... Sometimes we do have to fix our own mana by getting a basic. It's normally in there, though, to kill things like Blinkmoth and Inkmoth Nexus from the Affinity decks. Tectonic Edge is just really bad in that matchup. They can always play around it. They don't need more than 3 lands in play, especially with Springleaf Drum and Mox Opal in their deck. So having a way to kill their manlands without having to play the card Tectonic Edge is very nice. We have 4 Bloodstained Mire as one of our fetch lands. Just kind of staples of Modern now, that you get your Shock lands, and they fix your mana greatly. Blood Crypt. We have 3 Lava Claw Reaches as our man lands. Move the swamp out of the way for the second. Probably still can't read that, but tap 1 black-red. Lava Claw Reaches becomes a 2/2 elemental. It is still a land. You can tap X. Lava Claw Reaches gets +X/+O until end of turn. It's still a land. That's all it does. It's a 2/2 with fire breathing pretty much, except for any color. And in a deck where you're just killing a bunch of things, that can get in for a lot of damage. I've won quite a few games by having a Lava Claw Reaches, which is just better than having no mans. The rest of our lands are pretty simple. An Orborg, a Swamp, 2 Mountains, 2 Sacred Foundries, God of the Shrine, Isolate Chapel, 2 Plains. Not a lot of complicatedness in our mana base. No tricky lands, just pretty straightforward. Fixed mana, cast spells. So that's all for our main deck, and I'll see you for the sideboard. Hey guys, welcome back for the sideboard. We'll go and get right into it. 1 Blood Baron of Vescopa. This kind of serves as Batterskull 2.0. It is a 4/4 lifelink for 5 with protection from white and black. The much less relevant ability on it is if you have 30 more life and your opponent has 10 or less, it gets +6/+6 and gains flying. The main reason to play this card is it won't die to a single lightning bolt. The Abzan decks really don't have any way to kill this card outside of blocking it with Tarmogoyf or a big ooze, which we can kill with Pass and Crackling Dooms, or edicting it with a Liliana if you have absolutely no other creatures in play. The great part about this card is it also can't get Path, it can't get Lightning Helix, it dodges just a ton of removal that sees play in Modern, which is very nice. I really have enjoyed this card. As I said, my main deck on Magic Online is slightly different, so is my sideboard, but Blood Baron is a 2 of in my online version, and I have very much enjoyed having 2 of Blood Baron. can just single-handedly win so many games where a Batterskull couldn't. But Batterskull is still, I think, worth having over a second Blood Baron in my meta. There's a bunch of like random pod decks. There's a Living End player, just decks that can answer a Blood Baron, but they can't answer a Batterskull normally. But Blood Baron is still worth having. There's a bunch of decks in Modern still in my meta, just not as many as Magic Online that can't answer a Blood Baron of a Scoper. There's just a third Sin Collector, another hand disruption spell on a stick. Just nice for the control matchup to have some hand disruption. There's one core Firewalker, Burn and Delver, a 2/2 with Pro Red. Whenever a player, including yourself, cast a red spell, you may gain 1 life. Against Burn and Delver, gaining that 1 life for each red spell is going to be a big deal. Both those decks are basically, Burn is actual Burn, Delver is basically Burn with some creatures in it. Just a few more aggressive creatures. It's the only difference between those two decks. And when you're playing your own red spells and gaining your life off your spells as well, Core Firewalker can make a huge difference. There's 3 Blood Moons. As I say all the time on Magic Online, when I go over my deck, your opponent just won't expect a Blood Moon from you if you're playing this deck. You're a tricolor deck. Your mana can be, from a lot of the looks, can be extremely greedy sometimes. Though not really outside of Kitchen Finks, you don't really need more than 1 of each color. You can fetch around your own Blood Moon pretty easily. Starting an opponent out of the game is a lot more efficient way to win than you casting multiple spells in 1 turn. Especially since you can still cast multiple spells through 1 turn, even with a Blood Moon in play. So just give how the mana has worked out so far in the deck. So definitely worth having. 3 Slaughter Games is for the combo matchup solely. The matchup's pretty hard, even if we do draw all of our hand disruption spells against like Escape Shift player, for example, or Living End player, you just can't beat the top of their deck. Slaughter Games can beat the top of their deck by taking out the card that you need most answered. So that is why we have 3 Slaughter Games against like Escape Shift. We can handle all of their creature sideboard with 4 Path, 4 Crackling Doom. We just need a way to answer the card's Escape Shift and stop them from Valakutting us to death at one time. There's Stewing of the Gods, Affinity, Delver, sometimes against Burn, depending on how creature-based they are. Pod is a huge thing for this to be in. Pod and Delver are 2 very big decks. Having Anger of the Gods is very nice to have. Exiling is very relevant too. It stops Scavenging Ooze, stops Delve, stops Pod from recurring their threats. There's still not a lot of utility. It can't kill Edge Champion, kind of sadly, but Crackling Doom manages that in the Affinity matchup. So this card is definitely worth having access to. It's a 2 of. Then we have 2 Duress, just a 1 mana hand disruption spell over Thoughtseize for now. Maybe it's correct to just sideboard 2 Thoughtseize over this. Though my original version of the deck, was main decking 4 Thoughtseize, I've just slowly cut them because my deck was just having a ton of trouble beating their top of their deck. Especially when we both exhaust all the resources, then I'd start drawing Thoughtseizes, they were basically just dead draws. So I added in some more action spells over Thoughtseize, at least for now, just seeing how I like it. And we're sticking with the 2 sideboard Duress just because in the matchups you bring it in, you really want that card. It can take almost anything you'd want a Thoughtseize to take, with a very few exceptions, mostly those being just creatures. Being the really only thing that this card can't take that you care about with this deck. There's 1 Rakdos Charm, just kind of some nice Adrax's Graveyard Hate, exiles cards out of graveyards. Instant speed exile can sometimes be very relevant. Sometimes you'll bring it in for the deal 1 damage, just as have a massive burn spell. If your opponent's also playing artifacts, I did bring this in against a Mono Green Devotion player, not really knowing what he was doing. That he was on the Mono Green Devotion deck with only Avalanche Raiders. I figured he was playing some kind of weird Mono Green Devotion deck, maybe had a Batterskull or something, so I did bring in the Rakdos Charm. I did coincidentally kill him with the deal 1 damage to him for each creature he controls. That was very nice. Another time I did bring it in thinking you could redirect to Planeswalkers. On Magic Online you can't. I do not know if that is how that works in paper. I will have to check that out. But just a nice card to have access to. And then 1 Relic of Progenitus, solely for Graveyard Hate. Against the Delver deck playing this on turn 1 and just exiling all the cards out of the graveyard, you will never have to crack it. You'll just strand them with Treasure Cruises. But against a lot of decks bringing this in, just mainly so, if you top deck it, it's just 2 mana, play it, exile both graveyards, draw a card. You'll stop them from delving their spells. You'll stop them from recurring their graveyard if they're like a Living End deck. Just things like that. Nice to have access to a card like that. Oh, we didn't want Rest in Peace just because we are playing cards like Lingering Souls. It doesn't make them awful, it just makes them slightly worse, so we're just going to stick with the Relic because it does also say draw a card. So there's our sideboard. My Magic Online deck, as you can tell, is slightly different from this if you've been watching my stream I've started. Twitch.com, my channel is Pearsall01. I don't think I can change it. I tried. Won't let me change it so far. I will try to find a way. The stream is slowly improving in quality from the day you're seeing this. The end of this week, right before the pre-release, I will be getting paid, so I will be upgrading my XSplit account so I can upgrade the video quality, the resolution. Hopefully I'll also just be able to improve my streaming skills, commentating, interacting with chat, stuff like that as time goes on. You can also find me on Twitter as well as on Twitch. Twitter at Pearsallsblog. You can find my articles, mtgbrodeals.com. You can always hit the like and subscribe button here on YouTube for more videos. You can email me, pearsallsblog@yahoo.com. And if you really want to, Facebook is Josh B. Pearsall. Someone was interested in that the other day, so maybe you guys are interested. I don't use it too much, but every once in a while I'll get on there when something important happens, or I just kind of feel like it. Not often, but I can. Shout out, by the way, to MTG Nerds United, a great guy over on his YouTube channel. There's several other people as are shout outs. Scotty Mac and Ghostly Flow, they are fellow streamers. They've been doing a lot. They've been helping me out a whole bunch with learning how to stream and getting set up. They may not think it's very much, but it's been a huge help to me personally. And a shout out to the guy who requested the board, Red Delver deck. Leave a comment in this video. Tell them about yourself. I will let you do the honors.